Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Coronavirus Town Hall, a series of question and answer sessions during the pandemic with newsmakers here in Louisiana. Our guest today is LSU Athletic Director Scott Woodward. Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
And I'm advocate sports columnist Scott Rabelais. We want to thank our sponsor for this town hall, LSU Athletics. Supports for live events like these and all other coronavirus coverage that's made free of charge is made possible that way to you, our subscribers. And to anyone who just needs the information. If you are not a subscriber, please join us today at theadvocate.com/subscribe. It's only $2.32 per week. We'd appreciate you joining us. Scott, welcome. We want to talk, of course, about this coming football season. That's very important. We have a lot of questions. I have some questions. We have some questions that people have sent in to our website. But first, I want to ask you for your thoughts on the protests surrounding the George Floyd situation. Your name was added to a letter from LSU administrators emphasizing a commitment to inclusion and diversity. You've had coaches and student athletes who have issued statements. Former student athletes like Skylar Mays taking part in peaceful protests. There was a protest march through downtown to the state capitol last week. Just your thoughts, where do we go from here and try to heal these wounds and try to move forward as a community?
Yeah, it's great, and it's. I'm going to talk to it from two perspectives. One's personal and one's professional as athletic director. And they can be one and the same, I guess. But for me personally, it's appalling what went on in Minnesota and what's gone on in our nation for far too long. And we have to be sensitive to what's going on out there and practice what we're doing with actions and not hollow words, in my opinion. And I know right now our student athletes, especially our African American student athletes, are very troubled by this and they're hurting. And I just want to be there for them like we always are and support them in what's going on and how we're doing it. Our coaching staff's doing it. I'm reaching out to various teams. I spoke to the women's basketball team yesterday. I've spoken to the football team individually and will continue to do so. But the most important thing we can do is really, Scott, is just have empathy and compassion. Because as white males, we have no idea what our African American brethren are going through right now and what they've lived and how they've lived these lives. And so in a very somber way, I want to be proactive and positive about it, but also know that they're hurting right now, and we just need to be sensitive to those things.
Very well said, Scott. Thank you. On to football season, which I know is on everyone's mind as well right now during this time, has been for a long time. As we sit here on June 4th, LSU Season Opener with Texas San Antonio is scheduled to be 3 months and 1 day from now in Tiger Stadium. A long way to go from now, a lot of probably hurdles and different issues to overcome and questions to answer. But as we sit here, how confident or optimistic are you that the season, a full season, can be played and played as scheduled?
Here again, you know, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. You know me, and I'm very positive about this. You and I have had a lot of discussions about this. I'm very, very happy with how our state and our citizenry has reacted as far as dealing with this COVID problem that we've had, this pandemic. And people have been so good and so cooperative in quarantining and wearing masks and social distancing and taking these hard steps that are not comfortable for us, especially as South Louisianians. We're gregarious, we're touchy, we're feely, and it's been very hard. So we've been very positive in that, and because of that, our leaders have gotten us on the downward trend. That being said, we're really not going to know what the season looks like until probably July, middle of July, and kind of follow the examples of what other folks are doing. MLB, NBA, Premier League in Great Britain, Bundesliga in Germany, and what and how they phase it in and how they treat it. Because I think we're getting to the point where people are going to be very accepting and want football, and we're planning like the season is a go, and we are going to do that and plan that way and be prepared for every scenario. And we'll be prepared for whether it's 80% full, 50% full, 20% full. We will handle that in a way, but we're going to look at best practices and try to learn over the next 100 days of how to protect our student athletes, to protect our students, our staff, and very importantly, protect our fans from this virus. But I'm very, very bullish, and I think, like Coach O said, we need football. This culture needs football. This state needs football. This community needs football. And I'm very positive, looking forward that we are going to play football this fall.
You started to see some NFL teams and colleges come forth with some plans. I saw the Miami Dolphins had a plan that
Yep.
we're going to allow this many people in the stands. They got to enter the stadium and exit at different times. Iowa State, I think, has talked about maybe having half capacity in a 61,000 seat stadium. So, are you starting to think of? I'm sure you all have examined some scenarios, but at least it looks like we're going from where we were maybe when we talked in April, when I talked to you and a lot of other athletic directors around the state, wondering if there's going to be a season two. Looks like there'll be a season, and how, maybe going from no fans to how many fans can we get in the stands?
Yeah, and here again, as we talked about, it's going to be on the pandemic schedule, and we're gonna see how this virus goes and does. But I think we're progressing in the right way, and I think we're going to have things that we can do that are going to be very, very proactive as far as social distancing, and as you mentioned, the Miami plan, stealing some of their good ideas of phasing in entrances, and we're going to look at all that. But it's too early for me to tell you what best practices are and what they look like, because this is all very new territory for us. But I can assure you, we're going to do it safely, we're going to do it properly, and we're going to try to do best practices. And it could be temperature taking, at the gate. It could be misters that disinfect. It could be all kinds of different things, track and tracing, and what we do and how we come along with that, and seeing what goes along there. But it's a work in progress, and I can assure you, my staff and the game day operations folks are grinding, really working hard to come with the best solutions possible. But we're not quite there yet.
Monday, student athletes, and I believe just football and men's and women's basketball, right, started returning to campus to prepare for next Monday will be the start of voluntary workouts to get conditioned to start preparing, assuming there will be seasons to play for. How's that process gone so far? How many student athletes do you have back on campus now? And how do you think it's looking going forward with this plan of starting on June 8th across the SEC and then trying to get ready for a season? I know Tommy Moffitt talked earlier during the pandemic about needing a month or more to get people in shape, make sure everybody's in shape to be able to just practice and get ready for a season.
Yeah, I guess the key word here is how quickly can we get back to normalcy? And that's what we're trying to do. And as I've mentioned time and time again, the paramount goal and what we want to achieve is health and safety, and how we do that. And I couldn't be more pleased with our staff, starting with Tommy Moffitt, Shelley Mullinex, Jack Marucci, all of our folks that oversee health and wellness for our kids, to prepare them to do this. And we're going to do everything we can do to get it right. Come in and test them, give them physicals. We'll do PCR testing, we'll do antibody testing, we'll do all the things that our medical experts think is the best thing to do to keep them safe. And I think from a timing standpoint, I think we're in very good shape. I think I think Tommy's schedule is good. I think our kids are reporting in good shape. And it's just a matter of doing it properly and not overdoing it. And when we have issues and we have problems, deal with them. Isolate, quarantine, and do it. Because there's no doubt we'll have people that test positive, and we'll deal with it, and that's a good thing. And the more time we have, the better off we are to know how to deal with it.
Scott, we have some questions from readers that people have sent in to websites, theadvocate.com and NOLA.com over the last few days. Not surprisingly, several of them, and we'll just condense this all into one thing, deal with, fans in the stands. How will you decide? If you ever wondered what King Solomon's role was like, you're kind of in that role now. Are people asking about, will priority point system be included? 'Cause it's just, again, not to say
No.
there's any definite things, but it's hard to figure we're going to see a full, you'd be able to have a full, right now, a full Tiger Stadium
Yeah.
this fall, or any stadium this fall. But so how are y'all talking about how to decide who gets to come in or which games?
But believe it or not, and you're going to call me a liar, it's premature. We just don't know how we're going to do this yet. But I am planning and I'm hoping, always hope for the best and plan for the worst. But I'm hoping we're going to have a scenario where we're going to have a lot of butts in the seats, and we're going to have not a problem, and we can do this and achieve what we're going to do with the measures that we're going to take. And so I'm looking for a lot of folks in the stadium and a lot of folks doing that and doing what we should do. But everything's on the table, and what we're looking at and how we're looking at dealing with this thing. And I think as time goes on, things change. Scott, we've talked about this. Hey, if we wanted to wipe out all automobile deaths, we'd have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on the interstate out there, right to the left of us. But instead, we're willing to assume some risk, and I think fans are getting to that. And I think football is to the point to where I think fans really want that, and they'll assume that risk. And I always tell people, whether it's my parents or people at risk, be careful. And should my parents go to the football game? Heck no. Mm-hmm. They're octogenarians, and they're at risk. And I'm telling them, watch it on TV, please. And we'll go through all that, and we'll get to that point. And I think look for good answers sometime in early to mid-July.
To that end, a question from a gentleman named Perry McNeely said, I'm 79 years old. I was a pilot and fought in the Vietnam War. He's asking, as more of a statement, but please give everyone the option to attend the games with a full stadium if they're willing to assume the risk. I feel there are ways 100,000 fans feel the same as I do. Tiger Stadium is feared by other teams, so please don't take away our history of being the real Death Valley. Respectfully yours, a lifetime LSU fan. Like you said,
amen to that, and that's how I feel. I really do, and that's where I'm leaning towards. But hey, when facts change, minds change, and we have to watch what facts come out and what happens. Because I don't want to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. This is what I plan on doing. Yeah. But if something comes up and we have another wave or something bad happens that we have to alter, we're going to do that. But he couldn't have said it better, and I appreciate his service and his gusto for wanting to come, because I might have Robert Munson right here put him on one of our infomercials.
Obviously, people are very passionate about football, and this is an important thing to them. But it's important to remember that, like I said, it was about 3 months ago when I went to the SEC basketball tournament. As soon as we got there, they canceled the rest of the tournament, and that's when everything started shutting down. At that point, early March. So we're about 3 months into that. As we said, 3 months ago till the season starts. We've learned a lot. There's a lot more to learn, right? I mean, you don't want to make decisions now based on what there is to still learn about this virus going forward.
Yes, there's no doubt about it, and that's why I'm telling folks, I think the latest we can make a decision is July, and that's when I want to have all the information I can humanly possibly have from my staff and from the experts, medical experts, health experts, leaders in our community of what and how we should do this. And that's why I want to make really good statements, but just I want people to know, hey, we are advocating for it, and we're for it, and with the paramount goal being health and safety, but also know that we are willing to assume some types of risks. And like I just used as that metaphor, Scott, that's why we don't drive 15 miles on the interstate. We assume risk going 65, because that's what humanity wants to do. That's what the populace wants to do. And to the gentleman's point of taking risk, we will do so. And it's one of those things where I think we'll get there. And I'm very, very bullish about what's going to happen this season.
I saw a photo not too long ago from during the Spanish flu pandemic of a grandstand somewhere, probably a baseball game or something like that, and there were a lot of people in the stands, pretty full, and they were wearing masks.
Yeah.
Just about everybody was wearing a mask.
Yep.
We could, that's certainly a possibility. Right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
It certainly is.
How are you dealing with the financial impact of this? I mean, everyone's feeling it. And it's, again, I talked to athletic directors in April. Everybody was talking about 10, 20, 30% budget cuts. Obviously, you have some money set aside, for the proverbial rainy day, and this certainly qualifies. But and some schools, unfortunately, have talked about cutting sports, and in the case of Bowling Green baseball, they cut baseball, and now they're saying they're bringing it back. But how are you dealing with that? I know you've told me that's certainly the last option you want to have on the table or anything like that. Haven't really, doesn't seem like that's been an option for LSU. But how are you dealing with the financial impact?
Yeah, very good question, Scott. And I've thought about this a lot, and we've given a lot of thought. This event for us is a classic. If you're looking at it from our business folks out there that run businesses and do businesses, we are a very, very healthy organization. We have great television contracts that we just announced with the SEC. We have very good return on season ticket renewals. We have full premium seating, and our product is really doing great. Viewership's up, everything's going very well. So I thought to myself, wow, we have this really force majeure event that's COVID, and we're dealing with it in this way. So why would I want to whack and make draconian cuts to an organization that's really prospering and doing very well? Of course, we need to be austere, and we need to run this organization as lean as we can, which we're trying to do. But I don't need to make any draconian cuts, whether it's to sports or whether it's to personnel or support in what we do. So we're going to look if we have serious hurdles to jump as far as financial problems in this coming year because of COVID. We're going to look at potentially doing a lot of things of borrowing and planning and treating it as a one-time expense and dealing with it later. Because I think LSU athletics and obviously LSU football is on the rise, and I think we're in a very healthy situation.
To the end, I ask you to speak for other schools. If you can't do that, I understand. But
yeah.
But the schools that have announced we're cutting this sport or that sport, do you think these are permanent, long-term decisions that athletic directors and schools are having to make, or this just, as you said, this is a hopefully one-time situation where that maybe still sports can return?
Yeah. For us, it is, and we're very lucky. And I should have clarified that. Mm-hmm. You raised the point very nicely. We're very lucky to be in the Southeastern Conference and top of the food chain, and being a very popular sport that we can self-generate revenue. A lot of schools use general fund balances from their academic side to subsidize athletics, which I think is a very good thing. I'm not one of these who thinks it's a negative. I think it's very positive because I think athletics adds something to university life. It's very healthy and very good. So there's hard decisions to be made whether they can do that with the financial difficulties that the academic sides of these universities are having versus athletics. And I'm not smart enough and I'm not there to know what they're dealing with, but I would just tell my counterparts at other places that continue to advocate and don't be shy and don't be embarrassed about supporting this great thing called collegiate athletics, because it's so wonderful. But I know that there's going to be problems, and I know that this has kind of brought it to a head. This pandemic has, and so I feel for them, and I do have a lot of sensitivity of what they're going through.
We mentioned the SEC being the top of the food chain. You guys, again, agreed to June 8th being the date that these voluntary workouts would begin and start to prepare for the coming season. How much interaction with the SEC office and other schools, and how much autonomy do you have to make your own decisions about testing and about how many fans you may allow in the stands for the games, that sort of thing?
Yeah, let me start off, if you would allow me, Scott, to just tell you how great the leadership of Greg Sankey, our commissioner, has been through this, and since the time I've been in the SEC, and especially here at LSU. He's been a partner, and he's been a collaborative leader, and I couldn't be more proud and happy with his leadership. That being said, is that because of that, we have a trust. And the operations plan that Shelley Mullinex put to reopen our offices and to bring student athletes back is the model that the SEC is using. So our folks with Dr. O'Neill and at LSU Medical Center.
You're saying y'all feel like you set a precedent?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are the leaders, and we have great influence with what and how the protocols and practices of bringing not only staff back to the football offices, but bringing student athletes back and making the presidents comfortable with that June 8th was because of Shelley's hard work, Jack Marucci's hard work, Tommy Moffitt's hard work. And LSU is the leader in these protocols and in these procedures to bring them back. And I couldn't be more proud of that and happy that the SEC is listening to us.
I want to ask you before we get too far off the track, you guys, right after the season started making renovation plans on the field in Tiger Stadium to take out the old turf and going all the way down to the drainage, right, and stuff like that. You weren't going to play the spring game in Tiger Stadium. It was going to be at Southern before it was canceled. Unfortunately, it was going to be at A.W. Mumford Stadium. Because of this work, has the pandemic affected that at all? And how do you get to go look at the field? What's wrong? Do you sneak a peek in Tiger Stadium and see what it's looking like?
Absolutely, but knock on wood, yes, everything's going well. We've had good rain and good growth, and we laid the field down. And just to get a chuckle out of this, because this is what other people in the SEC and my other colleagues across the country think of LSU and their influence in the SEC, but they said, boy, if Woodward and LSU's laying grass down in Tiger Stadium, we're playing ball in the fall. So I said, oh, I wish I had that kind of stroke, guys, but I'm glad you think that.
But it wasn't just grass. I mean, like I said, y'all redoing the drainage and
the whole thing.
It's a lot. Do you know how many feet down they went?
Yeah, we went down 3 feet, right, Robert? And
wow.
And
you find any Roman coins or anything like that? Indian artifacts?
No, a lot of pipes and stuff underneath, but nothing like that. And the water table being so close to the river is real tricky, so we have to be careful with that. But the key is to get it to drain faster and to really flatten the field out a little more and take the crown out of it.
Yeah, I think I'd read or heard something about the field's going to be a little flatter than it has been.
Yeah.
It had a really pronounced crown.
It did.
At one time, so that's interesting. Any other work to the stadium that y'all have been doing?
Not really. Scott, we're really giving a lot of thought. I had a luncheon yesterday with a prominent contractor in town, and we're having assessments done. Is it how can we make our stadium safer for our fans as far as choke points for social distancing and things like that? We're giving that stuff a lot of planning and a lot of thought.
Because it is, in a lot of respects, a very old facility.
Yeah.
I mean, parts of Tiger Stadium were built in 1924. The North End was built it was a WPA project during the Great Depression. I mean, it's some of these things that weren't thought of when it was built.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do that and think about the best way we can do things with our new normal.
Again, touching on something that we spoke about in April and talking to the other athletic directors, you had situations, people have known how to deal with, like when Hurricane Katrina happened and LSU had to move the game to Arizona State to open the season and things got shifted around, or after 9/11, things that affected the season for 1 or 2 weeks. People can say, oh, I can draw on that experience or that response or something like that. But the flooding in 2016, or the flooding in South Carolina when you had to move that, LSU had to move that game with South Carolina here. They come here to Tiger Stadium in November. But there's no playbook for this. I mean, whatever they did in 1918, I don't imagine anybody left any instructions lying around from the Spanish flu. So just trying to feel your way and figure things out on the fly. What has that been like?
Yeah, it's been challenging, but for me, it's been intellectually stimulating. How do we do this in best ways? And my staff is so darn good. So much smarter and better than me. Verge and Stephanie Remp and Shelley and Robert Munson and everyone involved with it. Miriam Seeger, and how we plan and how we do things, and we look at these things holistically. And what we can do. And as I mentioned to you in an earlier question, we're looking at, stealing good ideas from, our counterparts at the MLB or the NBA and seeing how they do things. And because we don't have all the answers and we just don't know what works. But we are going to do it, and we're going to not be cheap when it comes to protecting our fans and protecting our student athletes. A from this pandemic. And so, it's always something new, and we're always hearing something new, whether it's a new product or a new theory on dealing with something. And I ask anyone out there who's a vendor listening, don't send anything to me, please. Send it to Dan Gaston, our wonderful game day operations and facilities guy. He's all ears and willing to listen. But we're really thinking about how we're doing this, and we've got everything on the table, and we're all ears right now when it comes to that.
How is the pandemic, and I was speaking to Robert before we started, that you guys are not in your offices yet at LSU. How's this made it more difficult to try to plan? It seems like everything's taking longer to do, but you have such a compressed timetable with this hard and fast deadline on an approaching football season.
Yeah, it's been a very busy April and May, and it's for us. It's all getting used to now, just like you. Doing things on Zoom and doing things on teleconferencing on the phone, and we've gotten used to it, and we've gotten efficient at doing it. And what I found is that with what's going on, we're actually working harder and working into the night. I think Robert and I were texting and talking till 9 or 10 last night, and that's not normal in June at LSU. So it's new, and I hate to say it, it's like a cliche over and over again. It's the new normal. It's what we're dealing with, and but we're doing it efficiently. And I think we've kept our staff safe, and we've kept our student athletes informed and safe, and I think it's working. But I'm ready for some human action. I'm ready to see people. And thank goodness for football operations for me, because I'm there every day, and I get to see Coach O and the staff, and this week watching the kids trickle in to do their testing. It's been really fun and really rewarding for me.
Coach Orgeron and a lot of your other coaches have been part of this PSAs and these electronic billboards that you see, we're reminding people to stay at home, and obviously, some of those restrictions are being loosened now, but y'all have been trying to be part of the community, I guess, good citizens to try to get the word out, and it kind of struck me if a politician says something, and you used to work as a lobbyist, right?
Sure.
So if a politician says something, people may or may not listen, but they see Coach Orgeron, the national championship coach, and with that voice, they got to perk up and maybe pay attention to what he's saying. He's been at the governor's press conferences. He's done commercials. I've seen him on national news networks. It's just talking about that. Just trying to get the word out and trying to help the community as a member of the community.
People can relate to Coach O, and he has a national persona and a national presence now. And we were, and he was especially, more than happy and willing to do things on behalf of his community and on behalf of LSU and behalf of the state and country to really protect it, because he felt really strong about it from day one, and he looked at it very unselfishly and very selfishly all at once. And the unselfish way is like, hey, we need to do this as a country. And selfishly, hey, the faster we deal with this thing, the sooner we can get back to normal and playing football. And that's what he wanted, and that was always our conversations in that. And he's been fabulous, and all of our coaches have, and our staff has, and all of our partners have been, Scott. And I failed to mention this at the beginning because I know you wanted to get going with these questions, but the Advocate and Lamar Advertising and all of our folks in this community have been nothing but supportive, and that's how I view these things. They're symbiotic partnerships that we have now, and we need each other to be successful for the greater good of this wonderful community that we live in. And O's all about that, and so am I, and we just appreciate everything you guys do and everything that our fan base has done and doing it and getting it out, because I think, at the end of the day, as horrible as this thing has been, and we've had, people that have had this nasty disease and people that have died from it, friends that we know, but in the end we'll come out stronger from this thing because of that, because of this love and because of this community and because of this partnerships that we have. So here again, this is all about who we are as Louisianians and South Louisianians. And here again, I want the Advocate folks to know how much we appreciate you and how much we thank you.
Well, we appreciate that very, very much. I know usually where I sit in the press box, the athletic director's booth is next to me, but you're not usually there. You're usually there on the sidelines. You're very big into football and everything. This has been coming off a national championship. Obviously, LSU's brand has just been out there. National championship, Heisman Trophy win for Joe Burrow. The NFL draft was coming like an infomercial for LSU football, really. But it's maybe the one downside of this has been, the NCAA has had such moratoriums on recruiting, no summer camps for recruits on campus where coaches bring players in to evaluate them. They can't go visit them. They're doing things on Zoom. Now LSU's getting commitments, and other schools are as well. But it's difficult. Has that been one of the disappointing things? Not the biggest, but one of the things is like it's been hard to maximize that. And how have y'all tried to make the best of it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you can look at it both ways. Yeah, you had this very magical year that we had this past season where it just went right, and you want to share it and show it to everyone and get the maximum feel for this thing. But two things. First is that everyone's dealing with it.
Right.
And so everyone's in the same bucket. And then I mentioned to O the other day when he was doing his power hours, that are famous now, talking to recruits, and he says, Scott, he goes, I may not be able to get them here this summer, but hey, it's not a bad thing for them to see Tiger Stadium in the fall, and that's something that there's nothing like it, and we don't have to brag about it because everyone else does it for us. Third parties do it for us. How special Tiger Stadium is, and so all of our commits that are going to come in, and the ones that are not committed are going to see something very, very special for the first time, and it hopefully awes them, and like it did us when we were there for the first time, and I think it will, and I think we'll have a very, very strong recruiting class to continue that ascendancy to great talent.
When was your first LSU football game?
My God, I was so young, I probably don't even remember.
I remember going when Burt Jones was playing.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years old.
Yep. I sold peanuts there illegally because I was too young to do it. At 9 or 10, and I did it then, and just had a ball. But Burt Jones, absolutely. My first really recollection of it was really that when Buddy Lee and Andy Hamilton and Tommy Casanova were starring there, and that's when I started kind of hanging around LSU campus, and I got to know a basketball player named Collis Temple when I was a kid, about 10 years old.
I saw Collis at lunch the other day at Louis.
Yeah.
He's out there. A couple of, going back to some of the reader questions, a couple of questions that interest me. This never really completely goes away, referring to LSU playing Tulane. Obviously, the schools don't play much anymore. They played infrequently over the last 20, 25 years. I don't think, not that I know of, any games that are scheduled right now. Any thoughts on playing Tulane, and then we'll get into another question about in-state scheduling after that.
Sure. There is frankly we would love to play Tulane, but they're looking more for a home and home, and it just doesn't make sense for us to do in-state.
Like home and home in Turchin Stadium,
yeah,
not the Superdome. Okay.
Right, and so playing one-offs, we're all ears to, and here I'm stepping into my deputy Verge Osbury's world that he knows much better than I do, and he knows the historical leanings of it. But we play them in other sports and want to continue to do that, and want to continue to be a good state partner in what we do and how we do it. With the announcement of playing Southern and Grambling, we're going to have played everyone in state, including Tulane, and we want to continue to do that. And I think here again in this new normal, it's going to make sense to start doing these things and playing closer to home. So we're all ears to opening it up, and hopefully we'll get some things done. But it has to make sense for LSU.
Right. And speaking of I was leading to my next question. Y'all just announced earlier this week that you're going to play. Southern will play in Tiger Stadium in 2022, and then Grambling will play in 2023. This will complete by then you will have played every in-state Division I football playing team. Someone reminded me, Louisiana College plays football. I was like, okay, well, LSU's not going to play Louisiana College, I don't think, but you will have played every in-state school in football. Just the importance of doing that. This is something that started under one of your predecessors, Skip Burtman, back in the early 2000s. He said we're going to play all the in-state schools, including the FCS schools, the McNeese, SOU. But these teams are finally on the schedule, and it's been discussed for a long time. This obviously just wasn't new because of what's going on in the world, but just talk about the decisions to finally work out games with those two schools.
I love that Skip did this early on, and because we are one state and we're one people, and we need to help as much as we can, and it does help their budgets big time, and it helps us with getting fans into the stadium from our in-state institutions. But the Southern Grambling thing has been in the works, and we just pushed it over the top and got it done, and Verge worked hard on it, and I'm so pleased with it. These great fan bases coming here and sharing with us their traditions, and hopefully we'll have some joint tailgating and some real fun stuff. And I tell our band that you better step it up because
better bring the A game
because they're coming.
Yes.
The Human Jukebox can rock it, and I'm looking really forward to doing that. And it's just one of these things where it's just win for everyone, and I'm couldn't be more happy about it.
Going forward, y'all have big games, home games scheduled with some big schools. I'm trying to think of some. I know Arizona State, Oklahoma's still on the schedule. Texas is supposed to, return. I say we're supposed to. I'm just journalistically. The game's scheduled, and Scott hasn't said anything to think that they won't be coming.
Oh, they're coming
on September 12th, I believe, for the first time since the 50s that Texas will play a game in Tiger Stadium. And some of these other schools, these are important things. Y'all have kind of moved away from, and this predates your time as athletic director. Y'all have kind of moved away from some of the neutral site games, although you're playing technically Rice this year. The Rice game is at NRG Stadium in Houston. That's technically a game. It's probably going to be more of a home game for y'all with all the alumni in Houston. But just talk about the philosophy behind scheduling right now, and your thoughts on it.
They've kind of played out a little bit, be honest with you. The neutral site preseason games, they're still doing them, but they've kind of lost their appeal in a lot of ways to a lot of folks because really two factors is the novelty of it's gone, and secondly, it's balancing that thing for us. Hey, you guys that are season ticket holders and that you are premium seat holders, I'm taking a good tilt away from you. You're going to have to go to a neutral site and see it, and you want to see it probably in the confines of Tiger Stadium and your seats and
or go to Austin or some of these other places.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Been in a long time.
So that's kind of, I'm sure, what the thinking was and what's happening in the industry and in the business. And so we've planned a bunch of good games. UCLA, trip to LA.
Looking forward to that one very much personally, Scott.
Exactly.
But playing them in the Rose Bowl.
But you'll see some more where we have a good impact and it makes sense for us. We'll do some. I guarantee you, Verge is working right now hard on some good neutral site games that may be in the works. And I'll give you a tidbit here, and I'm not going to answer any questions about it, but I will tell you. There happens to be a new stadium in the NFL being built, and that might be a great place to have a neutral site game. So take it for what you want, but I'm not asking any more questions.
Okay.
West of here.
That kind of narrows it down a little bit. There's a couple out west, but I know one in particular that could be interesting. I will say that, and as a longtime LSU football fan, you're going to know where I'm going with this. After you play UCLA, there's only going to be one traditional national power that LSU's never played in football. And I know you probably know who that is.
Go Blue, huh?
Yeah, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I know Les Miles he was a Michigan man, never wanted to play Michigan, didn't like the idea of playing Michigan in a bowl game. So maybe that's a game that could be played somewhere.
I can assure you, without breaking any confidences, the AD there is a Louisiana guy, and we've had conversations, and we're just hoping one day we could get something done. So.
Because LSU literally has played everybody else. I mean, BYU finally played a few years ago, and Wisconsin, Ohio State, Notre Dame, gone out west. Washington. Were you at Washington at the time when LSU was played out there?
Virgin. I scheduled that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a funny game. That's a beautiful campus and a beautiful stadium.
It is.
If people ever get out there. This is an interesting question, and there's always questions that you guys get about tailgating and fans. I don't know if it's just pertaining to this season or not, but Stick New Church, I like the name, from Baton Rouge said, will fans be allowed to park along Nicholson Drive again? Is this something that has become an issue for tailgating? I know there's been a lot of landscaping work done in conjunction with the Gateway project along Nicholson Drive. Anything you can share with us?
The answer is no. It's something that our law enforcement folks came up with for egress and ingress as far as getting people out in a hurry. Safety for fans and pedestrians and what and how we do it. That decision was made. So we have a lot of parking towards the levee and a lot of parking towards that part of the world, and we're going to try to continue to do it. But it's a good, honest question for me to hit the whole thing, is that we're looking at the entire situation of traffic and parking, and it's a conundrum that I haven't been able to figure out, but a lot of people are working on it, and we're talking about it with traffic engineers, we're talking about it with our local law enforcement about how we can do better to get our fans in and out of the stadium. And I think in's less of a problem than out. But we're dealing with old roads and a lack of arteries to go out, and we're just trying to do it the best way we can. And I think it's going to have to be really, really a long-term process that we're not going to solve overnight. But I can assure you we're working on it.
Yeah, I think the issue of you look out, and of course we're in the press box working for a couple hours afterwards. You still see people sitting out there in traffic for a long time after a big game that ends in a close game, and you don't. Everybody wants that to change, obviously. But,
yes.
But you have such limited access on that campus.
It's hard. It's hard. You got the river blocking you on one side, and then the interstate and arteries not doing that, and then out to the east you have to go through campus, and it's difficult. It's a lot of problems, and with neighborhoods around as far as doing contraflow and all those things. Everything has a action and a reaction. Yeah. And we want to be good neighbors, and we want to be good tenants and good stewards for our season ticket holders. So we're really trying to think it through and really to plan it right.
I think this is an issue that's already probably been addressed, but I want to ask you anyway, since we're in this format. Paul Bradley from Baton Rouge asks regarding baseball, what is the plan for baseball season ticket holders? Will a prorated refund be issued, or will a credit towards next season be applied? Have y'all dealt with those already?
we already refunded.
Okay.
Donations and season tickets.
I thought that was the case.
Yeah, and I want to thank our season ticket holders that did donate. There's about 10% of season ticket holders that did donate their season tickets and their donation to the athletic department. We thank them for that. And Richard Lipsey, our good friend and supporter and great alumnus, led this effort, and we couldn't be more happy with that. And hopefully we won't have to be in the refund business ever again.
This is a question, and I kind of had this one, but I'll give credit to Cliff Satoon from Prairieville for this one. And you may no comment me on this one, Scott, but that's okay. Many people have noticed 2 concrete stands being constructed next to the 3 national championship plaques outside Tiger Stadium. Will you be honoring the 1908 team along with the 2019 team?
I don't think so. And I was asked that question, and I found out the answer to that when a couple weeks ago someone was walking out there, and I said, no. They're actually preparing for the next national championship.
Okay. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. People may or may not know LSU's, I know Scott knows, LSU's first national championship team that's actually recognized by the NCAA was 1908. They went 10-0 with the great Doc Fenton played for that team and everything. But you guys have chosen, and of course this long predates even when you were an LSU student. LSU has traditionally just recognized its wire service national championship since the 1936 when the AP poll started. 58, then 03, the BCS that BCS champion, the 07 BCS champion, and now this CFP national champion. Y'all traditionally avoided going down the road of, hey, we recognize this national championship that came out of a box of Cracker Jacks that some schools might want to recognize. So y'all have stayed with that.
You've explained that better than I could have, Scott, and that's exactly right.
But it's a high. I mean, a lot of these are quote unquote mythical national championships. you've had all these different polls over the years.
Yeah.
So, some of the great teams in the 30s were credited with titles, even one for 1962. But y'all have always stayed away from that.
Yep, we have. And I don't know the history of why we have, but we just have, and we're continuing to do that practice.
Going back to the LSU brand and everything, this is now, 3 national championships since 2003, 4 SEC titles, played for another SEC title and another national championship in that span. LSU, do you feel like it is getting its recognition as being one of those national powers that people talk about? They talk about Ohio State, they talk about Michigan sometimes. So they've haven't won a national title since 1997. It's their only title in the last 60 plus years. With Alabama and those schools, do you feel like LSU is getting its due now?
I do. I really do. It's really been rewarding to see our recruits and how they handle it and how our national brand has expanded. And you can see it, here again, we don't have to toot our own horns, but our brand is so powerful and our social media number results are so good out there right now. And it's affecting campus positively. Admissions are way up, and it's having an effect across the country. And O's persona and where he's taken the program has expanded the recruiting base. And you're seeing, hey, last season we got 4 studs out of Georgia and a couple kids out of California, have a couple commits out of California. Yes. We're doing
up the East Coast.
Up the East Coast in the DMV, as they say, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, doing very well out there and getting good results. So the answer is absolutely heck yes, and it's not conjecture, it's fact, and it's because of all the hard work we've done promoting LSU on game day and with great partnerships with the SEC Network and ESPN, and getting out there and making ourselves accessible, and just selling. We don't have to sell sizzle, we're selling steak, because watching people tailgate and watching something in Tiger Stadium is absolutely spellbinding, and everyone wants to be a part of it, and that's a great thing.
It seems like Coach Orgeron, if he goes on he gets interviewed on ESPN or Fox News or whatever, and people are kind of captivated by him. It's like kind of like they're discovering for the first time. Like, he's been around for a long time, but it's like sometimes people act like he's someone new they just discovered, but it's all positive, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, it really is, and it's really positive from that standpoint. And like I said, not only am I happy from an athletic director standpoint, but as an alumnus, I'm so proud and so happy that we are prospering so well as a program and as a state institution.
This is a football staff-related question. Bill Satoon from New Orleans asked, how has the football coaching staff changed this year? Obviously, there were a couple of very big changes. Joe Brady, who was the Broyles Award winner as the top assistant coach of the year, left to go to be the offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers. And then Dave Aranda left to be head coach of the Baylor Bears, for a head coach position. So y'all brought in Scott Linehan to fill Joe's role, and then brought back Bo Pelini to be the defensive coordinator. So talk about those guys coming back.
Yeah, as Coach O likes to say, and my father used to always remind me, the proof is in the tasting of the pudding. But from my standpoint, and from what I know, I didn't know Scott Linehan well, but I knew a lot of his friends and colleagues that are mutual. And he comes highly recommended. Obviously, he was Saban's OC at Miami, and head coach, and a very solid guy. And ironically, when I was at UW, before I was there, he was the OC and right after the Don James era with Coach Lambright. And so he's been around. He's a Northwest fixture and just a really creative guy. And I think he's going to do some great things. Bo Pelini, I can't say enough good about him. I think he's one of the best coordinators in football. When we played against him when I was at Washington and he was at Nebraska, he shut us down. I mean, he played some tenacious defense. And we know what he did here in 07 and his brief time here and the results that he had. And I think he's as good as it gets. And here again, that's a parallel to the question before. hey, what's the brand mean? And top coaches want to come here and want to be a part of this.
And also, as we said, these guys leaving, Brady and Aranda, they're not leaving for parallel. They're not parallel moves. These are become a head coach or to go to the NFL, which I think a lot of people probably figured Joe. What I've heard was Joe's goal, ambition anyway.
Mm-hmm. And it worked for him, and it worked for us, and same thing with Dave. And I couldn't be happier for Dave Aranda because he's such a good guy, and he'll do great things at Baylor.
The wholesale change that LSU made offensively, last season, it's like, what's the chicken? How's the whole chicken and the egg thing work out? You had Brady brought some influence from his time with the Saints, that and some of their passing game. And of course, Steve Ensminger is still the offensive coordinator. He's still there. Yeah, Joe Brady running Joe Burrow to run the offense. But it started with Coach Orgeron making a decision, which is not easy for coaches to do, to say we're going to change the way we do things. Yeah. It doesn't seem like this. The bringing in Linehan shows any indication of LSU changing back to the kind of offense they used to run.
Yeah, and you won't. I mean, you've seen, and what you saw at Dallas with the advent and the ascension of Dak Prescott was Scott Linehan, and that was his good work doing that there. And so I just think you'll see a continuation and of that transformation of what we are. And I'm going to tell you, like Jarvis and Odell and all those guys that sat there that thought they were underutilized when we were grounding and pounding, saying, damn, I wish I had this offense. And, I said, I feel your pain, brother.
Leonard Fournette said that.
Exactly.
I think, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of them did, because he would have liked to caught some passes like Clyde did. But, it's a good thing. And, we don't look back and say, oh, what if? But I want to look forward to the future and just, boy, it's bright, and I really love this group of kids coming back. Chase and Mitchell and the O-line and the young talent coming in, Eric Gilbert, and it's going to be fun. And we'll hopefully have Miles develop into a championship leading quarterback, and that's going to be through hard work and through tenacious practicing. But I'm very bullish about this season, and I feel really good.
What is your message to LSU fans, though, in terms of the good news? The great thing is you had this season that was arguably the best season ever in college football. Yeah. 7 top 10 teams, the preseason top 4. I mean, you couldn't say that LSU didn't beat a lot of good teams. To go 15-0. You want to have high expectations, but you want to be somewhat realistic as well. You had 14 players drafted taken in the draft, and other guys left who became free agents, and this big turnover, a couple of changes on the coaching staff. Not to say I don't expect LSU football is just going to fall off the map, but repeating that is a little bit of a daunting task.
Yeah, it's a balance, and we still have high expectations, and we still have championship goals of what and how we want to do this. But yeah, hang with us. We are going to have off years. We are going to be 9-3 or at times, and it's going to happen. And we're hopefully that we're undefeated every year, and that's what we shoot for. But swing with us and look at us hard, and just know that our kids are going to compete hard. They're going to fight. And we're not going to hopefully get blown out, that we're just going to play it. But these things take a lot of breaks, and we caught a lot of breaks this year. As good as we were, a lot of good things behind the scenes happened to allow us to have this this wonderful season, this perfect season that we did have.
That's kind of one of the things that didn't take place this spring, and this one hurt me personally. I don't know about you, but the SEC spring meeting in Destin was canceled in late May, and that's usually when some legislation, some decisions come out, but also some early season football game times are set and stuff like that. And all the networks put a pause on that. I don't know when we're going to hear about that. I assume maybe sometime in the next month or so. Have you heard anything about scheduling or TV? Because right now, everything's TBA except for the game at Rice. I think it's set for 2:30 in the afternoon, over there. That's their
NRG.
game. That's their game.
Yeah.
But no TV network or anything like that for that. But are you hearing anything that could be coming soon, or maybe when we might hear about some of these games?
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this before, and I want to tell the listeners out there and the readers that the reason this was done by the networks is because a lot of sporting events are going to get that were canceled or postponed in the spring are going to get pushed back into the fall. So they want to integrate that with college football to make sure it works and works well. And hopefully for us, and this is why I was pushing it off a little more, is that hopefully it'll mean more night games and more nighttime opportunities for us because they'll want to take up, whether it's horse racing or whether it's the NBA or the MLB migrating in there, leave that more for day games and leaving the night windows more open for us. That's my hope. I'm knocking on wood on that one, and that's why I and Commissioner Sankey especially is being patient and working with them on that.
So maybe like a game like Utah State was it might have been 11 o'clock kickoff last year. I think it was very, very early. So maybe less chance of seeing something like that happen.
Yeah, and we've those are rare, and
of course,
and
they have been.
We for that got some late games and early and hopefully that'll be the case going forward because it's give and take, but we're always fighting and pushing for our good nighttime tilts. Yeah.
Scott, we're going to start wrapping up here. We appreciate you being with us today. I know, like I said, you're not just the athletic director, but an LSU fan. You're looking forward to as much as anyone there being a football season this year. And you've been optimistic this whole time, but you think that your optimism has grown a little bit as we move forward? It
definitely has. And I think as time continues and we see these trends going down, like I always said, we're at the mercy of this virus and we're on its timetable. And I think I'm seeing good things happening out there and trends going down and an acceptance and getting on with our lives and better testing and all these things that we've learned that we're getting better and better on. And I am very, very optimistic that we're going to play football and that we're going to play in front of a lot of fans.
I did have a basketball facility-related question. Stephen Prudhomme from Baton Rouge. I'm going to slip this one in.
Okay.
What facility improvements are being considered for men's basketball and the Assembly Center in general? And what timeline do you see for these, if so, and how has COVID-19 affected them, if it has?
Yes. The answer is yes to all of them. We're planning a facility or basketball operations facility for men's and women's basketball, and we're going to privately fundraise for that. And obviously, you have to slow down right now. A lot of people are in different types of modes right now. But we've been out there with the TAF talking about it silently, with big donors, and we're going to continue to go in that direction to look and plan in the near future when we raise the money to have a basketball operations facility with practice courts and new locker rooms and gyms for the men's and women's basketball program.
Now you have those practice gyms right now that were grafted onto the Assembly Center a few years ago. Is it
integration?
It would be an integration. So you'd probably be in trying to work with that within the PMAC.
Yes.
So yeah, and maybe any club seating, or would you like to see club seating or boxes or something like that come to the PMAC?
It's premature for that right now. We don't think it makes a lot of sense from that standpoint. We're still trying to grow and get our season ticket base up, but it's definitely in consideration. We just have to make sure it makes sense.
Scott, thank you again for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to our sponsor for this event, LSU Athletics. Journalism has never been more critical than it is right now, so please visit theadvocate.com/subscribe to start your home delivery. It's easy and affordable. And all of our readers and viewers and listeners out there, take care. Thanks.
Thank you.